Hello, everyone. Let's start with an exciting thought. Have you ever wondered how a single ancestral bird species could give rise to many different kinds of birds, each perfectly suited to its own environment? This amazing process is called adaptive radiation. By definition, adaptive radiation is the evolutionary process where different species evolve from a common ancestor and spread into different ecological niches. Think of it like one ancestor branching out, sending its descendants to explore new habitats, and over generations, each one becomes specialized for its own way of life. This process is a shining example of how divergent evolution and natural selection work hand in hand to produce diversity. And one of the most fascinating real-life examples? The famous finches that Charles Darwin observed on the Galapagos Islands.
When Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands, he noticed small black birds that looked very similar. Yet, when he studied their beaks, he found something extraordinary. Some had short, strong beaks for cracking seeds. Others had long, slender beaks perfect for catching insects. Although they all shared a common ancestor, their differences reflected their diets and ecological needs. Natural selection had shaped their beaks according to the food available. As you can see in this diagram of Darwin's finches, the variety of beak shapes is a living proof of adaptive radiation. Each finch became a specialist in its environment, like nature's experiment in design. Now, let's move from a small island to an entire continent, Australia. Here, a single ancestral marsupial gave rise to an incredible diversity of animals, kangaroos hopping across grasslands, koalas clinging to eucalyptus trees, and bandicoots scurrying around. Each of these marsupials evolved to occupy a different ecological niche. Some became grazers, some burrowers, others arboreal species. And remember, this all happened on the same continent but in different ecological conditions. In this diagram of Australian marsupials, notice how one ancestral line radiated into so many different forms. It's like an evolutionary fireworks display spreading across habitats. Here's something even more fascinating. In Australia, we don't just find marsupials, we also find placental mammals. And surprisingly, many placental mammals look and behave very much like their marsupial counterparts. For example, the placental wolf looks strikingly similar to the Tasmanian wolf, which is actually a marsupial. But these two animals are not closely related. Instead, they evolved similar forms because they faced similar ecological challenges. This phenomenon is called convergent evolution, where unrelated groups evolve similar adaptations due to living in similar environments. Just imagine nature solving the same problem twice in two different ways. So what does adaptive radiation teach us? It shows us how environmental pressures and ecological opportunities drive diversification. It begins with one ancestral species and radiates into many forms, each finding its own ecological role. It's not limited to birds and mammals, we also see it in bacteria that adapt to different hosts, insects adapting to new plants, and plants themselves evolving to survive in deserts, wetlands, or mountains. Adaptive radiation is one of the strongest pieces of evidence for how evolution shapes biodiversity. It is nature's way of filling every available niche with a perfectly adapted life form. Let's quickly recap. Adaptive radiation explains how one ancestor can diversify into multiple species suited to different niches. We explored Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands, marsupials in Australia, and even saw convergent evolution between marsupials and placental mammals. The big takeaway is this: adaptive radiation demonstrates how geography, ecological opportunities, and natural selection together shape the dazzling variety of life we see around us. So next time you see a bird with a unique beak or an animal thriving in a special environment, Remember, you are witnessing the outcome of millions of years of adaptive radiation. Isn't that breathtaking? I hope today's session helped you see the beauty of how life spreads out and adapts in remarkable ways. Biology truly reveals the creativity of nature. Until next time, keep observing the wonders of life around you because evolution is happening all the time.